Welcome to another session from Mindbowser. We have been conducting such session on regular basis. So today we have brought this Agile Scrum Mastery. So I'm hosting this this session today. So I'll start with my introduction. So with Mindbowser, I work as a head of engineering, where I manage process, and where my responsibility is basically creating a process, and I make sure that everybody understand and follow it basically. And I do have like 10 plus years of experience in development as well, and project management. I have managed more than 30 projects with Agile and Scrum methodologies. So this session I had divided in two parts basically. So first, it would have very basic of it. So I won't take much time here explaining what are the basic. I'm assuming that most of the people are aware of these things. So there will be first basic part where I'll be explaining about what is the Scrum, some definition I'll give idea about the Scrum Skeleton. Then what are the roles, artifacts, events we have in general Scrum basically. So I'm assuming that most of the people are aware of it. The good part about this is like I'm going to present a pro part as well. So which we have been able to, as a Mindbowser, process, we've been able to build with our experience and all this thing. So it includes all this stuff. I'll explain my later slides. So format of this presentation is again like first I'll start with the basic, and then there will be a pro part, and later we can go to the discussion. So meanwhile you can, whenever you have a question, you can just keep writing in the Q&A section, and we'll try to cover at the end of the session. So let's start with the basic first. So again, so the first question comes is like, what is Scrum? So basically, Scrum is one of the iterative method from the Agile domain. So we have multiple methods there. Scrum is one of the most used, I would say. It's basically a framework for developing a software. It consists of, there are teams which has different expertise. So they come together and work for a same mission, basically, you can say. So basically a team here try to achieve, like they are together and try to achieve the same output. And again, as I mentioned, it's a part of Agile. So Agile basically is a group of methods which are iterative. So iteration allows flexibility. So by flexibility, I mean that you can change in every iteration. So this is the power of Agile and Scrum. And after every iteration, we try to deliver, a team basically try to deliver a piece of a product. Ultimately, it keeps growing. So that's where the iteration comes in. Scrum word has come from, again, so the same has been used in rugby as well, like American football, people also call it. So they form a scrum, and basically the whole idea is to control the ball. So we can compare the same thing in the software domain as well. So we work in a chaotic environment where we try to keep the control of the project. So that's why it's been the term is used as Scrum. So now we'll see what are the Scrum. So basically, first we'll see the Scrum Skeleton. So what it includes. So I'm sure that many would be aware of these things, how it goes. Again, it has multiple roles, multiple events, multiple user it has. So first I'll talk about the roles. So first it has product owner, Scrum Master, development team. Again, I'm not going to the details. I'm assuming that these are very known to every one of you. So these are the three main roles we have in Scrum. And then we see what are the Scrum artifacts we have. So again, the first is product backlog, which is basically a requirement document, you can associate. It's a list of features you want to put in a product. Then the sprint backlog. Sprint backlog basically in one iteration, how much you want to complete. And then product increment is basically the result of sprint backlog. Like whenever you are done with the development of the sprint, you get an increment. Again, not going to detail, so you understood how it goes. And so this is a very important part of the Scrum. So basically, it has many events, like So it start from like you start planning. So it's called sprint planning meeting. Then sprint we have, then daily scrum meeting we conduct, then sprint reviews there, then retrospective there. Basically, these are very important events in Scrum. If you are following all this, you can definitely say that you are following Scrum framework. Okay. So again, as I mentioned, that I will keep the basic very short and go to the pro part as soon as possible. So again, so I hope this is clear, and I think everybody is aware of these things. So I can quickly move to the next one. So now I bring the pro part. So why we are calling it a pro? Because again, it has come from the learning we had, years of learning we had, and how better we should do the each Scrum event. And we have figured out some of the very low level to-dos that everybody should be following to make better Scrum. So I'll start. So first we do is sprint zero. So this is a very important sprint of this, like again. So again, so what basically we cover, you'll understand how why it is very important. So we try to understand what is the problem statement. So basically, it's very first, very beginning of the project where you try to understand the problem statement. And this is we are doing with the team together. It's not like every individual or only the product owner or the client. Basically, they are doing they're learning this. It is after you are done with everything and you are coming to the team. So there you discuss the problem statement. So here we try to explain team what is exactly real world problem we are trying to solve. What is like why the project, like why the project is there, what problem we are solving. Then what is client's vision, goal he or she has, like that definitely check. So basically we try to get every aspect of the project, why it is needed, why we're working on it, all these things. So it helps team to connect, from the very beginning, and they also understand end-to-end, process, like why we are doing it. So most of the time it happens like people directly jump into the development and they don't go into the details of why we are doing it. So that's why sprint zero is very important, that we want to make everyone understand, every team, every developer, every QA, everyone who is a part of the development team, they understand what we are doing and why we are doing it. And again, we do intro with the client as well. So again, it's a, so in Mindbowser, we do this, like everybody is a part of client communication. It's not like only the PM is talking with the client or any senior guy is talking with the client. It's every time that the team is connecting with the client. So in the sprint zero, we do connect with the client and introduce each other. So client also understand, okay, like these are my team. These are the people who are helping me achieving my goal. So that's why we do it. In this also, we understand what architecture we are following, what technology preferences we have chosen, and why we have chosen. Again, the why is very important here, why we have chosen. So everybody should understand it. Then again, what tools we should be using and what infrastructure we are using. So again, are we using the AWS, or there is a Firebase should be used, or in terms of architecture, are we using serverless or microservice, anything whatever we have preferred for our project. So that we discuss. Again, why is very important here, because as a team, as a client, everybody should be on the same page and they understand why we are doing and why we are using anything specifically. And again, we try to go through a process check, like what we should be following. For example, if we are following a Jira or CI/CD setup there, or we are using the tool like CodeGrip. So everything is set up in the sprint zero only. So everybody is aware what we have to do, how we have to do, and how would it go on the regular basis. So this is a very important sprint. We call it sprint zero. Then the next we start the regular sprint, which is again like sprint 1, 2, and we start with. So again, it has very obvious things like, you come with the backlogs and feature, basically list of features you have, and then you prioritize all the features that you want to start with. And again, I'm taking example of Jira here. So we create epics on Jira and we try to create user stories. But here I would have some pro tips, like what we have been doing, like especially like, and again, we also include some pending items if it is again some another sprint we are in. Okay, so so first thing we do, like we create user stories. So again, everybody must be doing it, whoever is following the Scrum or a sprint method. So we try to write acceptance criteria at very low level. For example, if we have any feature to develop, so we try to write everything in detail. What kind of the font size should be there, what color should be used there, what should be the length of any field, what validation should be applied. So this kind of low level criteria we try to write in the user story itself, and then we ask developer to create subtasks. So again, so user story basically a feature. So we write it, and then again it is done with the team itself. Like whole development team sits together and they discuss the acceptance criteria. Every developer from there, and like from the backend developer, they write their own subtasks. Again, the front end would write their own subtasks, and we together do the estimations as well. But here are a few pro tip we've been following. So for a subtask estimation, we ask developer not to go more than 4 hours, and if they think that it will take more than 4 hours, so we ask them to break it further. So that is how we do it, and it has been very helpful for us. So that's why it's a pro tip from us. We also do story points estimation. So again, we choose this way again, like 8 hours is equal to 1 story point. So that's how we calculate. There are different methods available to calculate the story points, but again, we have been following this only because it suits us. It can vary, like team to team, but we've been doing this. This has worked for us most of the time, so that's why it is as a pro tip. We've been following this kind of format. Again, people do use different kind of thing, but again, this is a very general thing that while writing a story, you write like this as a user. I want to do this, so I can achieve something like this. And again, below that, we write the acceptance criteria. So this is the first thing we do in the after the prioritization of this. We create user story. Next thing we do is like we create a sprint backlog. So by backlog means basically backlog is a combination of what feature you are taking in and what would be the time, what time it would take. So ideally we try to keep a 2-week sprint only. Again, it's a pro tip. We don't try to keep it very less number of days or more than like that. So ideally it should be like between 2 to 4 weeks, but we feel that 2 weeks is more than sufficient. 4 weeks become too long. And there also we try to divide in this way, like there would be 8 days of development plus 2 days of bug fixing and new sprint planning or any kind of grooming we have to do. So we are not doing that full 10 days of development and again try to in the next sprint we try to do the sprint planning and everything goes. So we have planned this way. We'll do 8 days of development and plus 2 days we'll try to fix the bugs if there are any, and we'll try to do all the sprint retrospection, review, and new sprint planning all here only. Okay. So now how do we decide like what should come into 2 weeks? So again, based on the priority, we only take 8 story point for each developer. So again, like as we discussed, so 1 story point is equal to 8 hours. So for every developer, we are taking like 64 hours of work only, and that is the only sprint we take, sprint item we take in. And again, we take based on the priority we have, and we try to skip everything else. We do not keep anything beyond the development time we have chosen. For example, 8 days here, so we don't go beyond it. We keep whatever we think, okay, we can complete this in 8 days of development. So that's only we keep it. Okay. Next thing we do, again, it's a part. So now we are done with the sprint backlog and we are ready to start development. So when we start the development, so here in sprint, basically we have started the development. So first thing we do is daily scrum meeting. So again, this is a very standard thing we have been doing. So we check for what is the yesterday task, what is today's task, and do any blocker here. But again, here is a pro tip we have. So we only take 8 hours of tasks from the estimation provided. So for example, when I come for a daily scrum meeting, I'll ask my developer to bring any of the 8-hour tasks they think that they should be completing today. So this is very helpful for developer, for a PM, in fact, for a whole team, that everybody's clear that these are my estimation and this much I have to work for today. And again, their goal is to complete these 8 hours of tasks. So again, in some cases there could be blocker and all things, so that we deal later as well. Later, but mostly we ask developer to achieve these in that the timeline, because they are the one who has provided estimations, and they are so accordingly they should be able to complete in these 8 hours work. So it gives clarity to developer. Okay, these are my tasks, and they are from the day, starting of the day, they are very clear. Okay, this is why I have to do it, and others also very clear. Okay, like this is what this person has to do, and what teams are doing it. So this makes very clear to them. So this is a very pro tip again. Okay, so this again we do. Again, this is not this. We have come up from our end that we should be doing it. So we do check on the work logs. We do check whether our estimations are on track or not. And in case of any red flags, we try to update client or team in advance only. So either it would delay or we'll skip some of the items. So that has been our standard. So mostly we try not to delay things. We rather we'll skip some of the items that we've been following. So these are very important things because you just keep track of your sprint, where you are going, estimation are right or wrong. So that we keep checking on. It may not be done on a daily basis, but you can do on alternate days or like twice in a week or something, like whatever you prefer. This is one more important thing we have brought in. So from the start of the sprint only, or maybe in the sprint backlog only, we try to fix the days for the build to share with the QA. So we don't do this. We are sharing builds on the every week basis or after the whole sprint is completed. We try to decide in advance only that every alternate days or twice in a week, any 2 days we can decide, okay, Monday or Thursday, any days we decide that these days we must receive the build. The QA must receive the build. So that's how QA is also like, he also knows that, okay, she also knows that, okay, this is what we are testing on a regular basis, and they can report their feedback to take things in time only. And again, it is the dates are finalized for both, like for all the environment. Basically, if you are day on stage only, so you decide if you are creating production updates, so there also we decide, okay, these should be the dates of it. So that we can achieve in testing by doing an advanced assessment only. So after the sprint is done, so we go to the sprint review section. So basically what we do in the review, we do an internal sprint feature demo. So whenever the sprint is done, whenever team feels, okay, we are done with the demo, so the development basic. So then we do internal demo, and we discuss, we collect all the feedback from all the team members, what suggestion they have, what improvement they think they have it, and we note it down and we put in the backlogs. And then we do the client demo, and again we take the feedback from the client, and again if there is something that so again we collect the feedback and we put in our backlog what needs to be done, and then after this demo only we deliver the whatever we are able to complete, or whatever sprint we are able to complete. So, and now what happens to these points, whatever we have we discuss suggestions we got from the client, feedback we got from the client. So we all keep in the backlog, and when we do the next sprint planning, we consider all those points. Should we take those items right, like the next sprint only, or we can skip it again based on the priority, what are decided by the team or the client, so that we do it. After the sprint review is done, we go to very important event that's called retrospection. So again, it has a very standard format that you should be doing is you should check what went well in the in the sprint. So every team member sitting together and they bring their point. Okay, what went well in this sprint? What can be improved? And if there is any improvement required, then how we can implement that change. So these are the standard retrospection questions we ask from every team member. But again, as a pro tip, we try to write the action item, what exactly should be done by any individual. Like, so for example, if someone has productivity issue, or someone is not able to fulfill the acceptance criteria, or someone is dealing by any reason, so that those kind of action items we write down for everyone, and then we make sure that in the next sprint it should be covered. Like it should be handled. And again, this is a very important thing that we do appreciate everyone, obviously, but we try to come up with someone who is like hero of the sprint, so that we have been doing, and it helps everyone. Like it motivates basically. So that is a pro tip. So that should be followed. So I'm done with all the Scrum things we've been using, what events it has, and how we've been following. I explain all those things, but there could be some scenarios, like some exception, basically. Like for example, how do you manage unplanned leaves if there is some team member is like they're not available for work? How do we manage it? And if there is any red flags or blocker we have understood, then how do we manage this running sprint? Or if there is any urgent fixes, for example, like you already have app on production, something very emergency situation comes for a production fixes. So how do we tackle all this? And if there are any priority that client has brought in between, like for example, you are already running sprint, but client think, okay, now we should do something like this feature, which is very on high priority. So for such scenario, what we do, basically we try to say no to changes. We don't take anything in between. Ideally, you should not take any changes, because already you had lot of things when in the beginning, like you went through all the discussion process and prioritization. So ideally, it should not allow any changes. But in case, again, you may have some such situation. So we try to do two things. The first thing we do is like we try to remove some of the low priority things from the sprint. Like for example, if we feel we can replace something which has come on more priority, so we try to skip those items. Or we try to delay as well. Like for example, I'm about to end my sprint, but something has come on urgent basis that we have to work on. So sometimes we try to delay as well. But again, it's not a very ideal situation we should be in. You should stick with your deadlines. But again, you can communicate with the client or your team that, okay, we are delaying these things. So this is how we handle it. Okay, guys. So here I'm done with my presentation, and thank you for all. And now we can have questions and discussion.